Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So we're reading in third canto of Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, 29th chapter, right?
29.
Yeah, so.
Which chapter are we? 29.
29, chapter 29.
Verses 21 to 27.
Starting with 21, so.
We should reach, I think, 19
Let's see.
Right. So who starts the chanting? Me? Or someone else?
We're going to do the verbs of the day.
Yeah, we're going to
Start.
focus on 23, so whatever.
Invocation? Did you do it already?
No.
We did
We didn't
that.
do the second part. We did the second part. We didn't do the second part. For this part, yeah, that's.
You do that? Okay.
Yeah, pull that up.
That's the second one.
Nāma-saṅkīrtana Devam sarasvati vyasam
Reciting this Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, they meet the contrast. Much as all respectful pieces of the Kṛṣṇa Godhead, Narayana, unto Mother Sarasvati, the goddess morning, unto Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam. Yasta Prayashu
Bhagavatishu Nityam Bhagavata Sevya
Bhagavati Namashloke, Bhaktir Bhagavati Naistiki, by regular attendance and classes from the Bhagavatam, by my regular service to the devotees, all that is troublesome to our heart is almost completely destroyed, and loving service unto the personality of God, with praise, transcendental songs, established as a irrevocable fact.
There's no H's in it.
No.
Right, no H. The H is silent. It's not present. So now 121 or verse 21. Is that... Oh, we okay. So we do the English for, and then the Sanskrit for 23, the focus verse. Okay. So this is Kapila Dev speaking, right? I am present in every living entity as the super soul. If someone neglects or disregards that super soul everywhere, and engages himself in the worship of the deity in the temple, that is simply imitation. Someone else could?
One who worships the deity of Godhead in the temples, but does not know that the Supreme One is Paramatma, is situated in every living entity's heart, must be in ignorance and is compared to one who offers oblations into ashes.
One who offers me respect but is envious of the bodies of others and is therefore a separatist never attains peace of mind because of his inimical behavior towards other living entities.
My dear mother, even if you worship with proper rituals and paraphernalia, a person who is ignorant of my presence in all living entities never please me by the worship of my deities in the temple.
For performing his prescribed duties, one should worship the deity of the Supreme Personality of Godhead until one realizes my presence in his own heart and in the hearts of other living entities as well.
As the blazing fire of death, I cause great fear to whoever makes the least discrimination between himself and other living entities because of a differential look.
Therefore, through charitable gifts and attention, as well as through friendly behavior and by doing all to be alike, one should propitiate me to abide in all creatures as their very self.
Living entities are superior to inanimate objects, O Blessed Mother, and among them, living entities who display life symptoms are better. Animals with developed consciousness are better than them, and better still are those who have developed sense perception.
Krishna. Dvishata parakaye mam manino bhinadarshina bhuteshu badavairasya namana shantim richati.
Vishtata parakaye mam Manino Vina Darshina Uteshu Bada Varasya Namana Shantim Prichati. Vishata Parakaye mam Manino Vina Darshina Bhuteshu Badavairasya Namana Shantim Prichati.
Vishata parakaye mam
Dvishata parakaye mam manino bhinadarshina bhuteshu badavairasya namana shantim richati. We'll do the word for word. Dvishata, of one who is envious. Parakaye, toward the body of another. Mam, unto me. Manina, offering respect. Bhina darshana, of a separatist. Bhuteshu, towards living entities. Badha vairasya, of one who is inimical. Na, not. Manaha, the mind. Shantim, peace. Richati, attains. One who offers me respect but is envious of the bodies of others and is therefore a separatist never attains peace of mind because of his inimical behavior towards other living entities. Someone?
Inimical towards others, and envious of another's body are significant. One who is envious of or inimical towards another never experiences any happiness. A devotee's vision, therefore, must be perfect. He should ignore bodily distinctions. He should see only the presence of the part and parcel of the Supreme Lord, and the Lord himself in his plenary expansion of Supersoul. That is the vision of a pure devotee. The bodily expression of other type of living entity is always ignored by the devotee.
It is expressed herein that the Lord is always eager to deliver the conditioned souls who have been engaged within material bodies. Devotees are expected to carry the message or desire of the Lord to such conditioned souls and enlighten them with Krishna consciousness. Thus, they may be elevated to transcendental spiritual life, and the missions of their lives will be successful. Of course, this is not possible for living entities who are lower than human beings, but in human society, it is feasible that all living entities can be enlightened with Krishna consciousness. Even living entities who are lower than human can be raised to Krishna consciousness by other methods. For example, Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, a great devotee of Lord Chaitanya, delivered a gull by feeding him prasad. Distribution of prasad, or remnants of foodstuff offered to the Lord, even to the ignorant masses of people and to animals, gives such living entities the chance for elevation of Krishna consciousness. Factually, it happened that the same dog, when met by Lord Chaitanya at Puri, was liberated from the material condition.
It is especially mentioned here that a devotee must be free from all violence, jiva-himsa. Lord Chaitanya has recommended that a devotee not commit violence to any living entity. Sometimes the question is raised that since vegetables also have life and devotees take vegetable foodstuffs, isn't that violence? Firstly, however, taking some leaves, twigs, or fruit from a tree or plant does not kill the plant. Besides that, jiva-himsa means that since every living entity has to pass through a particular type of body according to its past karma, although every living entity is eternal, he should not be disturbed in this gradual evolution. The devotee has to execute principles of devotional service exactly as they are, and he must know that however insignificant a living entity may be, the Lord is present within him. The devotee must realize this universal presence of the Lord.
Om Jnana-timirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So I made some notes because I'm just one person. I made some notes, but there's a lot of people here and a lot of different angles from which you could look at this. It's a big chunky purport. He says a lot of things. He makes some points and some expands on some points of the Sanskrit more than others. To me, this is evidence. This is Kapila Dev speaking. Kapila Dev appeared in this world during the time of Swayambhu Manu, married Swayambhu Manu's daughter, Devahuti. And, Kapila Dev is the son of Kardama Muni, who married Devahuti, But this happened a long time ago, apparently in the Satya Yuga, very early on in the existence of the material universe. And here he's saying that he's talking about different kinds of people that offer him respect. And he's talking about pious people that believe in God and offer God respect. But he's saying that there are kind of people that offer me respect but are envious of the bodies of others. And we see this, it's current now as it was current then, apparently. I guess people in the material world, as they say, people gonna people. You know, we see this everywhere. That there are those who are fired up to go to church on Sunday, and then even more fired up to start their grilling process, after church. And so that's what he's kind of talking about here, that you're not getting the full picture as you might. As I think we might have mentioned here before, Bhagavatam is like an expanded view of how to live a successful human life, really expanded view. Just like, I remember once I got a Volkswagen back in the previous century, when you could repair them yourself, and you could pat yourself on the back as a self-taught mechanic by buying the thick manual. I forget, was it like the Hughes manual? It's like this thick book, and you get it, and you get the parts yourself, and you do it, and you get in there, and you get your fingers all black and everything. But that's not something that just the average motorist cares about. They're just like, okay, how do I turn the AC on and off and happy motoring? Drive it off the lot and enjoy life. So the Bhagavatam is there for those who really are interested in making the very most of human life, and maybe even doing some repairs. And the repairs that he's talking about here, I'll tell you what it is. A separatist never attains peace of mind because of his inimical behavior towards other living entities. Maybe some of you are like me, that you feel that sometimes you feel inimical towards other living entities. I'm not free of that. Sometimes I feel inimical towards non-living entities. I remember at one time I was trying to do some home project, trying to be Mr. DIY, and I got so frustrated at something that I actually broke something trying to get it in place. I was like, why won't you do what I want? Kind of like the Homer Simpson approach to home improvement. But this is what he's talking about. You just no peace of mind because of his inimical behavior toward other living entities. And this, as I read this today, I thought of a conversation with Śrīla Prabhupada, where he talks about how actually devotees worship everything. Not only do they not punch inanimate objects, but they worship everything. This is, I thought I'd read it to you because it's nice to hear how Prabhupada thinks. The devotee says, Śrīla Prabhupada, if material nature is the absence of Krishna, then what is material? Prabhupada, nothing is material. If you continue Krishna consciousness, there's nothing material. When we offer this flower in Krishna consciousness, is it material, devotee? No. Prabhupada, so how has it become spiritual? It was material in the tree and now it has become spiritual? No, it is spiritual. As long as I was thinking that it is meant for my enjoyment, it was material. As soon as I take it for Krishna's enjoyment, it is spiritual, devotee. So actually this entire world is spiritual. The light bulb is going on. Prabhupada, yes, that we want, to engage everything in Krishna's service. Then this world will be the spiritual world, devotee. So we can also appreciate Krishna's creation in that light. For example, this flower is very beautiful because it is Krishna's. Prabhupada, yes, we realize that. The Mayavada philosophy says, Jagan Mithya, this world is false. We don't say that. Krishna has created so many nice things for his enjoyment. Why shall I say Mithya, false? Suppose you build a nice house and you call me, just see. And if I say, it is all Mithya, devotee, I'll be offended because I can't enjoy it if it's false. Prabhupada laughing, how depressed you'll be. The Bhagavad Gita explains that demons say like this, asatyam apratishtam te jagadahura nishvaram. The rascals, the demons say that this world is asatya, untruth, and that there is no cause, no ishvara. This is the declaration of the demons. But if Krishna is a fact, his creation is a fact, his energy is a fact, why shall I say it is false? We don't say it's false. The Mayavadis say it is false. So Kapila Dev is talking about the vision of a pure devotee. He sees everything like Prabhupada sees everything as spiritual, as meant for Krishna's enjoyment, not for my enjoyment. But this is where the envious problem comes in. This is why we sometimes feel less than peaceful in heart, less than peaceful in mind, maybe a little envious, maybe a little angry, because we want things to go our way. And when we don't get our way, especially when another living entity creates impediments to my enjoyment, politics run on this engine. We don't like them because they say this, and which runs counter to our idea of what is good. When I was in high school, there were various gangs of people, and some listened to this kind of music, some listened to that kind of music. And we all hated each other. We hated the guys that listened to Southern rock because when we were superior, we listened to punk rock or whatever it is. The people in the sports program, they were the jocks, which was a pejorative term, and they thought we were wimps, which was probably true. But everybody hated everybody else based on this external thing. And that's what makes the material world keep on going, because we all come here with certain desires we want met. We don't get those desires met, we get angry, and we look for somebody to blame. And usually it's the person that's closest to us. Anybody who's been in a long-term marital relationship can see that. And public enemy number one is usually your spouse, because then you can blame everything that you're not being treated to in the material world on the nearest convenient scapegoat for you, which is unfortunately Hare Krishna. But this all comes from, like Prabhupada says, this viparya smriti. We separate ourselves from the absolute truth, from Krishna, and then we make ourselves into sample wannabe enjoyers. That's when the trouble starts. That's when we start to see everybody is like this guy, that guy, the other guy. They're all, we hate them. What is the saying? If you go out in the morning and you see somebody who acts like a jerk, well, maybe he's acting like a jerk. And if you see another person, it's like that person's a jerk too. And if you get to the end of the day and everybody's a jerk, that means you're the jerk, right? So this is called viparya smriti, seeing things separate. And when you see things separate, that means separate from Krishna. And the whole process of Krishna consciousness is that we're supposed to see ourselves and everyone else in relation to Krishna. And this is not something that you require a certificate for to tell you that you're Krishna consciousness. In Krishna consciousness, you just know. Are you happy? Likelihood is you're Krishna conscious. Are you unhappy? Is everybody else a jerk? Maybe you're not in Krishna consciousness that day. But the point is to not leave society entirely and say, they're all jerks, I'm leaving. People have tried this. But especially in Krishna consciousness, we need each other to. There's an analogy of rough rocks or stones that are put into a machine called a tumbler and just kind of rakes them around until all the rough edges kind of shatter and go off into dust, and then you've got some nice round stones. And when I first came to the temple, I was 22. I had a certain group of people that I thought of as my friends, and we had certain similarities, certain shared interests. When I came to the temple, the only shared interest I found with anybody there was Krishna consciousness, which was good because that's the most important thing. At the same time, I could see that all of my rough edges were going to have to go sooner or later. If I'm going to stay with these people that are very different from me in so many ways, I'm going to have to gradually let go of the other things that I think are so cool or so attractive or so neat. They're actually part of this bina drishta, or seeing yourself as something special aside from Krishna and his devotees. There's another, this is from a purport in the Bhagavad Gita where Krishna is explaining to Arjuna how you can see, how you can understand me by looking at all other living entities. This is Bhagavad Gita. Let me let's see where this is. You probably all know this. This is the 16th chapter. Yeah. There's a series of verses there where I'm a completely different book now. I'll synopsize it. Krishna says that I'm the grandsire, I'm the father and the mother, the foundation. And in the purport, Prabhupada goes through and says, actually, the mother and father, because they're representing Krishna, they're also Krishna. And because the teacher gives one knowledge, he's also Krishna. And he goes through and lists like every person you could possibly come into contact with and says, they're actually Krishna. So this is the vision that is we're supposed to come up to that point that we see everything as Krishna. Like Prabhupada says, we worship everything I might have told this story before, but one time there was an early devotee in the first temple in 26 2nd Avenue, New York, and they had just, they were going to put a new clock on the wall, and before it was on the wall, it was on the floor. And this devotee kind of moved it out of the way with his foot, and Prabhupada said, you should never touch anything with your foot. And he said, why? Is the clock holier than my foot? And Prabhupada said, yes. So if you have that vision, like Kapila Dev is talking about here, Prabhupada is talking about, if you have that vision that everything is Krishna, and I myself belong to Krishna, and I only exist to give Krishna some pleasure, then everything you see is an opportunity for happiness and service. But if you see things slightly, to the degree you see things otherwise, you're going to be pissed off all day long. Confirmed every day. Like I said, there's so many things that can be said. It's a lot in this purport. I have more things, but I'm really more interested to hear from any of you at this point. We can talk more.
Follow-up question.
Yes, sir.
I was wondering about you said that like maybe like one day we're not Krishna conscious and the next day we are Krishna conscious, something like that. Just like maybe like one day I feel like everyone's a jerk, like you gave that example. I was wondering, is it that I'm not or I am in Krishna consciousness, or is it that I have like varying degrees of Krishna consciousness?
Yeah, it's like varying degrees. You know, if you look at a line graph rather than a bar graph, you know, it'll show you that your progress from day to day. You know, figure the timeline is the bottom, and let's say the dots on the graph represent your level of Krishna consciousness. So it'd be interesting if such a thing could be made, right? Because then you can see, oh, this day I was actually doing pretty good. The next day I was like, what the heck? I took a dip there, and then I kind of stayed on a plateau for a while. And then I went back up for a while and stayed there. And then I had a really nice kirtan. Prasadam was great. And then the next day I was like, ah. So it's like that. But the point is to keep moving forward, and stay with the process, because so much of what we experience is just in our mind. You know, like every single day, maybe some of you have this experience. Every single day I wake up with a certain level of hopelessness, and I feel down. I feel like self-condemnation. And then, you know, I hear from some devotee. It's like, oh, okay, my life isn't completely in the toilet. Things are not as bad as I thought. So that's another bonus of living in Krishna house or in a temple and situation, is that there's always somebody who's doing better than you are in any given day. And if you allow the opportunity to arise, they can lift you up. And the goal is to just keep those opportunities ahead of you. Always let there be another opportunity for devotee association or service, because then no matter how low you may be on the graph that day, someone can lift you right up, and it can happen instantly. I probably went on longer than I needed to, but is that okay? Hare Krishna. Yes, sir.
I really like this verse because it's talking about seeing everything as Krishna, and I always like this because it reminds me of I used to study like the more like consciousness style stuff, and basically been proven by science that everything is energy. You cannot be created or destroyed; it just changes form. And that's the same definition of what God is. And so energy is everywhere. They say if you look at your hands, it's you know, it's not really still; it's moving. And so, in a sense, that's all Krishna's energy. It's like you just put a name on it because that consciousness is everything. It's the quantum field. So what they say in science, but that quantum field is Krishna's consciousness. And so that's what I like about this verse, is that it really like points out even science can prove that everything is Krishna.
If you let it.
Yeah.
Yeah, cool. Thank you.
This subject is making me think about whenever we go on pilgrimage. We go on a yatra to India, to Vrindavan, to Mayapur, and when we're there, we like have this consciousness that everything is holy, everything is sacred. Like the ground is holy. We roll on the ground, we walk on faces. When we first get there, we give them the box. Just getting there and even the people, what are the people that are from there called? What do we call them? Birch bosses.
Or depending, the Dom Bosses, yeah.
Dom bosses. And imagine if we had that consciousness everywhere we went. If we're in Gainesville and we have that consciousness with all the students and every tree here. I'm not saying it's the same, but if we had that consciousness and like, even like on the Krishna house property, like we see the trees here and everything here, and our fellow devotees.
That would be newsworthy, wouldn't it? People would come, you know, the media would come with cameras. There's a new sect on campus. They all roll around all day. You don't know exactly why. Smearing the parking lot dust of UF all over their bodies. Who are these people and what are they doing? Yeah. Well, like what you were saying, Prabhu, about the certain branch of science being open to the idea that everything is endlessly morphing energy. I think of like a sunset. The sunset is gorgeous, you know, at a certain time, the purples and the oranges mix, and then, oh, there's some dark clouds over there, and you can see a little bit of the blue through there, but it's constantly changing. And we're in the material world, usually you don't see that things are changing. You usually look in the mirror, at least between the ages of, say, 15 and 55, and you think, that's me. And then a certain drop-off point happens, like, what happened to me? But it's like that. It's like a sunset. You look at it 1 minute, you look at it another minute, and it's different. Different from spiritual reality. Advaitacharya Prabhu, did you want to say something? Yes, thank you. 1 second.
Thank you very much for the class. Since we are speaking about how Krishna should be separated from his devotees, now even other living entities, or furthermore from anything, that being one of the definitions of illusion, to see something separate from Krishna. I couldn't but to notice on the very top of the database, there was a message. Could you pull it up?
Yeah. Yeah, the person who's been tending Prabhupada's archives for many, many, many years, Ekendra Prabhu, just left his body within the last few days.
If you just go scroll to the top, there was a message from the database.
Oh, the message.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that's it's very nice.
Yeah.
From database.
Yeah.
Devotees in general to remember other devotees. And it's there to stay for some time for us to reflect on and in our hearts express gratitude. Pleasing Krishna, getting those 4 points in our life.
Yeah.
More than that, actually. This is directly pleasing Krishna.
Yeah.
But my question to you, Prabhu, is from verse 21, if you could help me. That if someone neglects that super soul that is everywhere and engages himself in the worship of a deity in the temple, that is simply imitation.
Mm-hmm.
What is imitation in this regard?
Yeah, I was thinking about that too. The word there is vidambanam, archa vidambanam, which vidambanam is translated here as imitation. Other places it's translated as like bewilderment, or you're just not getting it. That's to me what it means. Imitation means, you see, okay, officially God is over there. He's on the altar. He's in a temple. That's where I'm going to go because that's where people go. That's what people do. But if you don't see his presence everywhere, then your going and bowing down is kind of like a parrot, repeating English phrases. You don't get the sense that the parrot really understands the meaning. And in the same way, if you're just kind of going through the motions of your spiritual life and you're not getting it, you're bewildered, but you're imitating, that's okay. It's better than nothing. But still, it's not what Krishna would really like. Just imagine if somebody had that kind of relationship with you, and treated you very officially, but really didn't care about you or understand your connection with other living entities, you'd be like, who's this guy?
So imitation is indication that there is something real. So imitation of something
Right.
like that. So what is that real thing?
Well, the real thing is what? Is what Krishna says, that manmana bhava mad bhakto madhyaji mam namaskaru. Like Prabhu is saying, if you really have that vision that Krishna is everywhere and everything, and then you're constantly in ecstasy and you're always thinking of Krishna, you're always offering respects to Krishna, not out of imitation, but because that's what you feel has to be done. That's what you want. That's the only thing that I am supposed to do, is to offer respect and what can I do for you, Krishna? What can I do for you, my dear devotees? That's what I'm here for, as opposed to, okay, when you're on the clock or something, whatever lower grade consciousness you may have. But, imitation is still better than nothing.
So the real thing is perceiving that same deity everywhere,
Yeah,
or trying to do that.
yeah.
That is the real thing.
Yeah. Prabhupada liked to give the example a lot that if a mother sees her baby's shoes, she's going to look at those shoes and think of her baby. She's not going to think, oh, shoes. Look at the shoes. No, she's going to think instantly that relates to her baby. So that's the way that's a higher level of seeing God, is that you see God everywhere, everything. That either what we're looking at is God himself or God in part, but it's still Krishna. It's either Krishna or Krishna's energies.
Somebody has shoes, Krishna shoes, and here in Krishna house you have loose buckets around the house.
Okay.
How do you see them?
Same way.
I do have another one, but if there's time, maybe others. From 26.
I was just thinking, it could be confusing to think like, oh, Krishna is everything, like that, and we should worship everything, just because then maybe someone is going to start to actually do arti to the tree, and they go, oh, well, I'm worshiping Krishna.
Yeah.
And I think Prabhupada says that would be embarrassing.
That's exactly right. I didn't read the whole conversation. Like Prabhupada does say, yes, we worship everything. We see Krishna everywhere. We don't see the tree. We see Krishna's energy. Therefore, the tree is also worshipable because Krishna and Krishna's energy are both worshipable. Therefore, we say, Hare Krishna. Hare means Krishna's energy. We worship everything. In our childhood, we were taught by our parents that if a grain of rice falls on the floor, we must pick it up and touch it to our head to show respect. We were taught like this, how to see everything in relationship with Krishna. That is Krishna consciousness. Therefore, we do not like to see anything wasted, anything misused. Why are we preaching? Because we see that so many rascals are misusing their lives. We think, let us give them some enlightenment. That is our mission. We could think, let them go to hell. But why? These people are being misused under Maya. Let them gain some enlightenment. He says, yeah, not like we see a bench. We don't worship benches. But there's a way to see everything properly. Yeah. Yes, Prabhu.
Kind of a question and a comment. Not that the deity is being minimized, right? I mean, the deity is the form of the Lord, and it's not that we should condemn ourselves for seeing the deity as God himself. But when I look at the toilet, I am very careful when I look at it with all veneration. The deity is the deity. It's Gordy time.
So there's a question built into that, would you say?
Well, I mean, I guess the question is like, maybe should I get ahead of myself and start to think that try to think that I'm so realized that I fully understand that this is Lord Balaram? Or should I be where I'm at and consider, oh, well, yeah, someone told me this is Lord Balaram, out of respects.
Right.
But I shouldn't, convince myself or get ahead of myself.
Yeah. I'm sorry.
Isn't that one of the definitions of Kṛṣṇa? He calls he only sees God in the temple. He doesn't see him. So, of course, he's, he's still a devotee, he's still keeping by example over that whole life.
Right. That's why the Shastras are there. That's why the spiritual master is there to give guidance on how to appropriately see everything. This camera is meant to be treated as a camera. The deity is meant to be treated as a deity. There's many rules and regulations for that. Everything in its proper place. Mataji, did you have something?
I just wanted to. Hare Krishna, this was a nice class. I was focusing on this one word though, because my name is Anasuya. And so now always I see envy or envious, and I really hone in on it because I didn't realize how envious I was. Verses where the same Sanskrit word is used, it's also being defined as your enemies. And so in this other verse where it's being referred to as your enemies, it's saying your enemies, the demons, were extremely weak because of their disrespect. And so I wondered maybe if you could just speak quickly about this idea of being envious and being a separatist. I also searched quickly what that word means, which is directly referring to the visuals of the body. And so I just wondered if maybe you could speak quickly about how actually envy is the root of separation, and how there's fear from the demons that they will power, and so they separate people from their positions.
Yeah, so it seems like the question is more like, he's saying that there are enemies, but we're supposed to see that there are no enemies, and how does that exactly work?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, for a devotee has no enemies. He doesn't see anyone as enemies, but someone might think that they're his enemy. So they might act like it, even though the devotee doesn't see it that way. So the devotee in that sense, like, Ambarisha Maharaj, he was Durvasa Muni came to his house and expected to get some lunch, and there's some discrepancy in the lunch delivery, and Durvasa Muni became super, super angry, and he was ready to curse Ambarish Maharaj. And Ambarish Maharaj is like, I'm sorry, I just, Durvasa Muni was ready to really deliver some heavy punishment, but then Krishna intervened and sent his Sudarshan chakra to chase Durvasa everywhere. So that's one instance of a devotee not seeing enemies, somebody else behaving as an enemy, and then Krishna dealing with that person. So that seems to be, at least for us, we can't mobilize armies, we can't chastise enemies. That's not our position, at least most of us. Maybe some of y'all can mobilize armies, but for most of us, the learning how to be tolerant and learning how to not see others as enemies seems to be the cheaper and more profitable path. But there's always going to be somebody who thinks they're your enemy, and then you just have to pray to Krishna to deal with those people as he sees fit. Or also we lock our doors at night. You do what's practical. Yes, Hare Krishna.
Bible? Okay. So I was just, thank you for this wonderful class. I was just thinking about the enemies and devotees seeing that, there's no enemies up there. So I think that the service inside of that is devotees seeing that there are no enemies. And also, and this expands to everything being Krishna. So, in relation to Krishna, right? So they say that this deity is no different than the Krishna is no different from his paraphernalia. So if we see everything as belonging to Krishna, then we can utilize it for his service, and we can think and meditate on that, how we can utilize it for his service. But then at the same time, you know, you wouldn't take a tree from outside and throw it on the altar. So you have to make distinctions, you know, and this is also in relation to enemies. We don't see anyone as an enemy, but we do make distinctions on how we can serve them. If they do a crime, then our service is to help them understand that that's a crime. Or it might not be our service. Our service might be for us to report that crime, to help that person, that individual, so that they don't go in this vicious cycle over and over. So again, it's in relation to, and how can we serve Krishna and please Krishna in that way? By making distinctions. The tree and its roots do not belong on the altar. Does that make sense?
Oh yeah, that's great. That's great. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Yes, Mataji has a question. No, you had your hand up first.
It was not a question. I was actually thinking about this word Balaram thing that Prabhu had just mentioned, because like, Lord Balaram is also Shankarshan, which actually is the gravitational energy, and we all know from like electromagnetic study that actually everything is a combination of attraction of atoms, and you know, so that power or that energy is Shankarshan. So in that way, we can understand that actually everything is from this energy of Lord Balaram. But then Lord Balaram is the personality of that energy. So there's like two aspects. But for us, it's much easier to understand from the tattva perspective that, oh, this is, you know, that. But it doesn't mean that this is exactly Lord Balaram, because Lord Balaram is still independent as a person.
Mm-hmm.
So I just wanted to say that, yeah.
Yeah. Nothing is different from Krishna, but Krishna is different from everything.
Zuckerberg and Kate. My question is from the verse 26. Actually, not really a question, it's observation. How in 26 says that the sphere that is like a blazing fire of death, I cause, and Krishna causes, to whoever makes the least discrimination between myself and others, which is, you know, one of the three factors of a learned person, like treating others as you would treat yourself.
Yeah.
I find it as a great reminder and the way to engage our fear. If we are fearful, that should be seen as an indicator that perhaps we're not as connected as we think we are. So how would you encourage yourself in a fearful state?
Prayer. I mean, what does it seem? What does it seem that the exemplary devotees that we read about in the Bhagavatam or Bhagavad Gita do? What is their go-to action in any circumstance that they find untoward or fearful? It's like immediately prayers to Krishna. Immediately prayers to Krishna. Like this is beyond me. I don't know what to do. You need to do something here. That's like the immediate. That's what we're being trained to do. To immediately turn to Krishna in every situation, because material existence, you don't know what can happen at any minute. This devotee Ekendra Prabhu was very sudden. His departure was very sudden. You don't know, at any minute something can happen. So constant prayer.
And then I have experience in dealing with our other brothers and sisters from other religions who are quite locked into this separatist mindset of my group and the other group.
how do you, from your experience, how do you help? Is there a way to help them overcome that fear? Because it's fear driven.
Yeah.
It's really fear driven.
Yeah. Well, if you have the opportunity to give such persons ample and tasty prasadam on the regular basis, completely fill them up, and so that when they see you, they equate seeing you with, I'm going to get something tasty, then gradually the consciousness changes. Otherwise, if you're just straight up in their face, they might like, yeah, you people are going to hell because you don't worship, the way I worship. But prasadam injections are required. I remember one time we were visiting my grandparents, and my grandfather especially. He did not want to hear anything about Krishna, especially from me, even though I could have told him something. He just didn't want to hear it. But my wife, smarter than me, said, I'm going to make some strawberry shortcake for Grandpa. And he's just eating the strawberry shortcake, and he said, you could provide this for me every day, I'll start chanting. Jai. Mataji, something else?
Yeah, thank you, Prabhu. I had a question. We're talking about being non-inimical, trying to be as devotees towards others. But I noticed this tendency to self-criticize, and that I feel like is also another symptom of a different kind of like illusion, maybe, like, because the Shastras say that anger is a secondary emotion.
Mm-hmm.
There's a primary emotion, which is actually benevolent, which is, the process of love.
Mm.
But then when we misunderstand or misdirect it towards something else, then it happens. So it's actually kind of like a sticky problem, because we tend to make certain assumptions that we don't even understand. And I don't know, can you comment on how to overcome this tendency to be mean, to, we might have a negative outlook because we have been hurt before.
Yeah.
And we have a negative outlook towards life and people.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not like a direct hatred, it's just literally like, I'm trying to protect my emotions by thinking the world is weak or something.
Right.
Like Dostoevsky, who seems to be angry.
Yeah.
But actually, he's very shrewd in his ways of thinking.
Yes.
So I'm just confused.
For better or for worse, what occurs to me upon hearing your words is that a devotee, by definition, is always trying to absorb his consciousness in Krishna somehow or other. When you do that, whether through chanting, through prasadam, through reading, through service, whatever it is, to the degree you're able to really absorb your mind in service to Krishna, or hearing from devotees about Krishna, or talking about Krishna, then your own mindset takes on relatively less importance. Like the fact that I was hurt in the past and I'm protecting my emotions, that takes on much more scaled down importance in your own mind, to the degree you're trying to become Krishna conscious. Because that's another point that you've raised in the past, Prabhu, that what do we do if we are maybe we don't have intense faith in Krishna consciousness because we've been burned in the past, we've been disappointed. The point is to somehow or other think of Krishna. Then your own feelings, your own moods, they take on much lower importance. Just examine your consciousness at the start of the day, before you start chanting any japa. And then after you've chanted some japa, even if it's poor japa, even if it's inattentive, how do you feel after you've heard from the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, or you've taken prasadam, or you've chanted? your own mood, you may find that it lifts above where you were before. And the consciousness is supposed to change. Cleanse. Well, yeah, cleanse and put things into perspective, I want to say. Because that's another, you brought up another aspect of our experience, that we may think, oh, I'm the lowest, I'm good as me. Well, there's probably a lot of people lower than you. Just, get over yourself, as we like to say. But there's something more I can see.
I just don't want to, because I've tried this before. I just chant and I just forget about it, right? I just forget about it. But then there's a difference between spiritual bypassing and actually understanding where that comes from, and understanding it correct. Knowledge alone liberates. And we cannot be blinding ourselves with mantra and just think that Krishna will take care of it. We have to actually try. So I think that the spiritual process or Krishna consciousness is actually a process that can address it. It inherently is a cure to that.
That's true. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's not just, for me, it didn't quite work, because it can work for a time, but the deeper issue is not completely gone. So.
Sure. And the deeper issue might take longer than you would like to resolve itself. But as far as a process for dealing with those deep issues, if you can find one that's more effective and permanent and lasting than Krishna consciousness, we'd all like to know about it, because there's one thing you say, like spiritual bypassing or blinding ourselves with the mantra. We're told and reminded again and again that Krishna is his name, and where there is Krishna, there's victory, there's fearlessness. All these things are there, present in Krishna. So to the degree we're able to perceive that, we might not be able to perceive it today. But if we keep going with the process, we may find, to our surprise, that our consciousness changes, and we're able to devote ourselves to it more wholeheartedly. The consciousness does change over time. Even throughout the course of the day, it changes. So what to speak of over years? The process is meant to work to the degree we are able to really apply ourselves to it. Prabhu, you had something. We have to stop. Okay. We can take it over. Okay. Śrīmad Prabhupada ki jai, Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam ki jai. Hare Krishna.
Mahaprasade Govinde, Nama Brahmani Vaishnave, Svaha Punyam Rajan,